तो आवाज आ रही है क्या? तो इंट्रोडक्शन तो हो गया. लेट्स मूव. सो या लेट्स स्टार्ट विद दिस कि हाउ मेनी fintech apps do you have in your phone right now? What does it mean? Means banking, loan, credit card, cred, phone pay, gpay. So if you try to think about it, 5-6 से ज़्यादा. And if you look at your phone, definitely 10 से ज़्यादा होंगे. I have 40. I don't know why. 40 somehow. So शायद मैंने इंस्टॉल किया होगा टू check the competitors or see how everyone is doing. So I think the financial services sector is coming digital very quickly, and everything is getting digitalized, and we are using it. So a lot of apps are there, and so it is growing and everybody wants to work in it. So किसी को interest है भी? हाँ हाँ, I hope yeah, thanks. हाँ, so it is a very interesting field. To build for managing money for people, and it comes with a lot of things, lot of considerations that you have to make as a developer or as a business. So uh, tell me something. क्या जाता है fintech apps में? What are the things that we have to consider? Let's say technically. Definitely, पैसे घूम रहे हैं तो we should not lose people's money, right? So security. Then spam. Oh yeah, calls and messages. Yeah, that is also one thing. So first thing, it should solve something for the people, right? So कुछ real problem होना चाहिए, जैसे UPI. UPI is digital. It feels that you have to use your phone to pay. Instead of what you could do, you could just hand away the cash. It was fast, but when UPI came, it felt slow, but it gave you freedom to not carry cash or use ATM card, ATM machines, and worry about having cash or not. So money was in your phone, and later when UPI Lite came, it became lightning fast as cash. So you still have the convenience of being as fast as cash while using digital and everything at your fingertips. Then security, yes. Then trust. अगर आप किसी को पैसा दे रहे हो तो you need to be able to trust them that this app will not lose my money. Compliance. So India has many different organizations for different sectors. SEBI for stock market and many other things, and RBI for banks. So they issue, other than financial guidelines, they also issue technical guidelines, how you should store data, and uh, how should you give this product to a user, what should the flow look like, uh, the minimum criteria. For example, you have to show some declarations on the final screen when paying or applying for a loan. You have to do those things. And yes, great coders that we all want to be, right? But why choose Flutter? बहुत सारे platforms हैं. At the end, it's mobile development, right? Why choose Flutter? Just because Zerodha or कौन सी Angel One, there are many apps, Cred, all of them are built. So उनकी मान के बस Flutter. That is not the way, right? We should have some understanding on क्यों ले रहे हैं Flutter, क्यों Flutter से ही करना चाहिए for us. So one thing is, Zerodha ने जब Flutter choose किया तो they had a long journey. They tried many things, Android native or native solutions, React Native, Xamarin, and they reached to Flutter, and they chose it, and there are some technical reasons why. So they have written a blog, so you can read about it. Yeah, so many of our favorite apps are built using Flutter, and InvestRight भी है, HDFC InvestRight. I hope if you are using it, we are trying. I'd like to say कि हम बेहतर कर रहे हैं आपको. Yeah. So these guys have chosen Flutter, and I feel like one reason can be the simplicity it gives you to build great UI experience for both the platforms or multiple platforms, and then it also gives you flexibility to extend it from the native side. It's very easy to uh, extend native features or features which are not available as a package already, like CarPlay, and there are a lot of features which you may not find in packages. So you can easily extend, you can write Swift and Kotlin without much hurdles. Compared to other platforms, it feels much more easier. Yeah. So I don't know which, after COVID basically, when I joined Zest Money, I compared to my experience at that time, what I saw is these few things that we took care of, or we had to do to improve our app. So first is modularization. Zest Money पता है किसको क्या था? So just like credit card, you get credit limit on the app. App में आपको limit मिलता है. You can spend it on the partner websites like Amazon, Flipkart, and most of the popular websites had the integration, including Razorpay. So if somebody is using Razorpay, they can easily enable Zest Money. So now you have credit. Now as a business, we would want to have use cases of using this credit. One is paying on merchant websites. Other, we were building bill pay, and there were a few more cases, and all of this in a growing company, all of this need to be built parallelly. तो ये सारी चीज़ें साथ में बना रहे थे, दो दो तीन तीन लोगों की टीम थी, and in Flutter side, and there were many others. So at that time we need to work parallelly, and at that time we need to build multiple Flutter packages for each feature and then integrate them well. And in this we may make a lot of mistakes. So to standardize everything, as a team we sat down and chose standards, code standards. So modularization के time पे every team needs to like use the same pattern, use the same techniques, so that what the end product stays stable, right? That's one. Second is type safety. So unlike JavaScript, Dart gives you hints about whenever you are doing something wrong based on types. So if you are assigning integer to a string, it will simply tell you right there, unlike JavaScript. So we have to use that to fullest. So for example, one thing, when you sometimes feel the need of using dynamic types in your JSON response classes, so we can hide away the complexity by using packages like JSON serializable, which automatically generates the underlying code, and you only have to worry about the types, what types you are expecting to receive, nullable, non-nullable, and it will correctly parse it. So all the pain of that is gone. So those techniques we can use to improve our code. Same goes for navigation, same goes for assets. Mostly we also use assets loosely, right? We type the path, which can be very risky. It may feel risky, definitely it feels. So कुछ packages हैं which create a class out of all the assets that you have. So you can always use it. Then next is observability. So when you are doing this critical business in this critical system, something may happen somewhere and everything may break. So how to know before this happens or as soon as it happens? So on backend side, there are tools like New Relic, which lets you see the real-time behavior of all your systems, of the backend systems, whether they are responding in the threshold time. If something is getting slow, a service is becoming slow or getting overloaded, we should know very early. So it lets you observe. something, if something's failing, you should be able to trace what was the chain of failure. And on the mobile side, we can use simpler tools like Firebase Performance for a start, to trace, to have traces of network, navigation, and custom traces also, like some flows or some places which user uses as a core feature. For example, if if in my app user is trying to take loan, then I should be able to measure each and every timing of the page transition, that user came to this page, or say start to finish in this many seconds. If this metric starts becoming worse, then you can immediately get alerted that something's wrong. So you can call people online at 12 in the night, right? And there are tools like Mixpanel, which lets you also analyze the same thing uh, in terms of usability, whether user are able to use your app or not. If they want to do X, are they able to reach to the point or not? How many users, or how much time do they take to complete that flow? If you had expected that this is just a 2-minute thing, but they are taking 10 minutes, then your UX is wrong, probably. You can experiment then later. Then yeah, we'll talk about HDUI very soon. It is related to compliance. But then I move to PhonePe. Okay, there are some takeaways. So again, the same things that we talked: use Dart to the fullest, set code quality standards with the team, use lint rules, avoid dynamic types, use strict types, and some HDUI techniques we'll talk soon. Then I came to PhonePe, and the first thing I saw, which was very daunting, was the requirement of test cases, that every MR should have at least 60% of coverage. So what does coverage mean? Coverage means whatever code you write, the business logic, you have to write a test case. For example, if you are writing mask a phone number, like take the 10 digit phone number and remove the first 7 digits. So now if you have written a function, you have to write 10 functions testing positive and negative things, like whether this function is taking all different kinds of inputs and responding with, I mean, returning correct values, masking correctly or not. So you are putting something in and then expecting something. That's how you write unit test. And the coverage of your logic is called code coverage using unit tests. So requirement was 60%, and achieving that seemed difficult, but it was not. What it does, it motivates you to write better code, that how to make each of the decisions in my logic testable. So it forces you to think more and do better. Then uh, yeah, and what happens with what happens when you write unit test? You can sleep peacefully. You can say to a manager that when I merged this MR, I had written enough tests that I am sure that this code will work. And if somebody changes something in my logic, then the test cases will fail when the other party tries to create an MR, and they'll be caught. Or basically they'll have to understand what they are doing, and how it is affecting my code, and then they can talk to me, or they can fix it on their own. So this helps build very high confidence on your code. If the team is very huge, this is one of the good things that we should have, even if it means spending 50% more time, because it saves you from maintenance. Then compliance. So in Zeshmoney also, and in PhonePe, I saw multiple times when RBI came up with some compliance guidelines that you have to show users so and so things when giving them something, or when they try to do something in your app. One such example was when giving a user loan on the last page, you also have to show the APR. APR means the actual interest rate, including all the charges, hidden or not, the interest rate, combine everything and count one percentage rate that they have to pay annually to get this loan effectively. So that was the need, and just to comply with that, it took just money 1 month of effort for a certain team, but it took 1 month. But as a business, we do not want to spend on these things, these interventions, right? We should be building our business, we should be building features, right? So to mitigate these things, what I saw in PhonePe, they had server driven UI. The simplest thing can be changing what is shown in the form, the validation, the flow of the screens, and the highest level can be you can design everything using JSON, for example, row, column, everything. And the most recent version of the STUI which PhonePe is using for the credit section is the latest, and the level of flexibility it provides us in the JSON. I mean, you can describe how the user should be, the app should be built. Sorry, the screen should be built, the layout. What happens when you tap a button? It should do an API call, and then you can also specify what happens with the response, where should it be placed, how it should be formatted, or any simple calculation that we have put in the app SDI framework already. So those things could be done, and it is a big achievement. But it also means that not everybody has to do it, because we do not have the budget. It is a very complicated thing, and it may fail because it's very delicate. So choosing the right level uh, for the time of your, for the what do you call it, for the level of your app. If you are like very early, you do not have to do it. If you are in middle somewhere, you can see what you are facing and implement only those. So this was a big win for PhonePe also, that they are able to change anything anytime without delaying because of App Store or anything else. Third, uh, vulnerability scanning. So there are many tools available to do this automatically. So whenever a developer pushes code, this code gets run and I mean scanned, and the outputs are like this logic that you have written. It may introduce certain vulnerability. Probably your app can be, probably you are for example, you are configuring your permissions wrong. So what was that tool? Sonar Cube. So it is a popular tool, and it lets you scan your code, and not just vulnerability, you can also scan the code complexity. For example, you are writing nested for loops, and if it takes too much time to compute, then it can detect and tell you, and help you write better code. Next, feature owner teams. So for the core feature, they had one team. For X feature, they have another team, and that team, it in itself can decide how it should go. So there are some decision makers, but at the end, the team sits together, back end or front end, and everybody else who is needed are there to push their own feature forward, and they are responsible whether it gets pushed or not. So this also benefits when you have large number of features and everything is critical. Protecting PII. So this is a note that personally identifiable information should not leak into any logs, any third parties, or your UI or your debug logs, anything. So uh, you can practice that and understand what is PII. I think every company has that training sessions, and probably this is also one of the topics, that how to protect your customers' information, right? And um, yeah. Yeah, I think one thing which is very popular is tokenizing things. Whenever you are transferring something, you can tokenize the information. Then storing, use the secure storage options which are available on Android and iOS side. On Android, something called Key Store was recently released, which is just like keychain. It lets you store sensitive API keys, sensitive keys to key store, and in runtime you can ask for it and use it. So it makes it keeps those things very safe. Then in-house tooling, so to protect PII and save yourself from compliance, for big organizations like these, they adopt tools, open source tools, and then make it their own. If they want a feature to be built, they'll take the open source tool and modify it heavily and use it for their own purpose, and it helps have control. And whenever an audit happens, you can definitely say that these are our systems and data does not flow outside. For example, if you are using a third party and if the third party gets hacked, some data gets leaked, then for my customers, for me, it is a big problem, because then RBI will ask me, what did you do about it? Then for code complexity, one note is there. For code complexity checks and code quality checks, there is a tool called Dart Code Metrics, and there are other free tools also. You can take a look and integrate in your developer workflow to improve your code quality. So the same things which we talked about, uh, continuous monitoring of performance, uh, enforcing the unit testing code coverage, adapting open source stacks, and building robust reusable packages. So about the third one, uh, in a service company, you may see that every team, or say every time you need to build a new project, you have to write the same things again and again. As simple as getting a package from pub and then integrating a feature. What you can do, you can create another library for in-house use. For example, you write a wrapper on permissions, you write a wrapper on all the native features, all the common features that you use, and then share it on every customer. Because it is so generic, you can also not worry about, I mean, you can also feel, you can also add unit test and be very confident about it, and not worry about those common things, and just build your business for the customer or for yourself, right? So these help, and this also lets you build a common a code pattern that you can teach to anybody who joins, and it becomes very easy to onboard people instead of them building their own stuff in their own way, figuring out things. You can just say that we have solved this problem, do not do it again, just use it. Then recently I have joined HDFC Securities, and in a very short time I have seen these things. First was automation. We were more than 15 to 20 Flutter devs, and we did not have automation. So people were spending a lot of time just to create a build and get their own features tested. So it is waste of time, right, for a company who is trying to service a lot of customers. That developers should be doing something useful instead of building APKs. So first thing that we did is created a pipeline, again in-house, using open source tools like Fastlane, and first build APKs, share it to testers using Firebase distributions. Second, build an APK and publish it to internet channel of Google Play Store and TestFlight. Then third, we added the linting, the Flutter's inbuilt linting using Flutter lints, and we are trying to move to very good analysis, which is much stricter. So it helps. What we are planning, we will try to add some rules bit by bit to enforce and force our developers to just update some code, not everything, just enforce some code, so that over time in a year will be much better. And we are planning, we have done this vulnerability testing using MobSF. So MobSF is an open source tool which scans your APK and tells you about things that can go wrong. Okay, then security. I have some points. So securing app code and the backend. On the app side, we have some few things like SSL pinning, root detection, app attestation, and encrypting the data before storing it on disk. So SSL pinning, how many knows SSL pinning? So what it does, whenever you open Chrome, uh, the server presents, I mean, whenever you open a website, the server presents a certificate which should be used to communicate with that website, and the Chrome verifies it using by checking the trusted root certificates, CS. And if for an attacker comes in the middle of your network, for example, just outside this office, if somebody cuts your wire and connects a device in between, take an example, and what it does, it tries to uh, intercept the traffic. So these attacks are very common, and against a phone, mobile app, it is very easy to do. What they can do, they can take their own phone, install their own custom certificate in here and on their computer, and make it so that this phone always goes through this computer to access anything, and the computer cracks whatever is being transferred. So that can go very wrong when you are building fintech like apps. So SSL pinning में क्या होता है, you have a SSL certificate installed on server and only you know which. So whenever the server presents that certificate in app code, we decide whether to trust this or not, and we either let it happen or stop it. Then root detection. I think everybody remembers the time when we were rooting our phones using King Root, right? So what King Root does is it places a directory uh, to access super user features. Android is Linux, right? So to access root, you need those files to access root features. So in app, what bank app does, it tries to access the common folders where this malicious app code may reside, and it tries to identify if it is there, then simply say that it is rooted or tampered with, the phone is tampered with. So this is one way, but what hackers do, they scan the app code, they take the APK and scan what the developer is trying to scan. What I'll do, I'll just change my folder name to gain the root access. That too can be mitigated by encrypting what we are checking. So when we check something, a path, we place a string, right, to check. So one solution is to encrypt the path itself and decrypt it only when executing the code. So that way we can safeguard what we are scanning from a hacker who is trying to read our code by decompiling it. Then app attestation. So Google Play Store and Apple both provide a feature called app attestation. What it does, for example, you are initiating a transaction, and what I can ask to this service, that check whether this app is valid or not, whether this app was untampered, and if the device can be trusted. It will trigger that on your phone and let your servers know whether to proceed with, I mean, how risky is it. and then you can decide whether to let the user complete the next API call or not. So you can immediately stop these kinds of issues. And believe me, with Zest Money, this was very bad. We were getting a lot of fraudsters doing this, so we had to implement many features. Even PhonePe has built their own framework out of it, this problem, and they are doing a software as a service. It is called Guardian by PhonePe. You can search about it. They provide it as service, and you can also use Google Play integrity and app attached, I think, on iOS. Yeah, so there are many things, but yeah, due to lack of time, I think let's move on. We can discuss later. So what were the takeaways so far in HDFC? That we should be automating everything as much as we can. If you have something that set of people need, and there is only one POC, better automate it and let everyone access it as a UI or something. Then periodic security audits. There are companies, there are tools which does in-depth analysis of your app. Uh, every fintech app gets their app scanned, and they continuously fix things if something comes up. And there is OWASP. This is an organization which keeps record of all the security issues that come up in software engineering. And in the mobile page, they have listed, they every year they list what were the top 10 vulnerabilities that came for the mobile field, and you can read and see how to mitigate them. Ask chat GPT about them, and it will tell you what are the common patterns to fix it. And one more thing, enforce the code quality, vulnerability testing, and all the metrics that makes your code better, makes your app better in the CI pipeline itself. So a person does not have to do it, the machine will automatically. Okay, this is one funny thing, if you can make sense. So for people working in fintech, we do not really get time to think about investing, because when the market is open, we are debugging. And this is one thing which I would like to suggest everyone to read. So this is a book written by mobile engineers at Uber, and this book is available on Amazon, and it presents you with many challenges and their approaches on how they solved it, and their opinions about how you should approach it. So this is a very small book, but everything will be interesting. Trust me, it will not bore you, but you will find many things that will be relatable from your experience. Just go through it. And it is cheap on Amazon. You can get a paper book on Amazon for 850, and I think e-copy is even cheaper. Yeah, that's it. So we can talk about things when we are on the floor later, but you can connect me on social here, and thank you.